This is Brent Grover speaking from Evergreen Consulting for Advanced Supply Chain Software powered by IBIS. This month's topic has been the incredible shrinking margins. I've been talking about different ways to build your margins at your wholesale distribution business, and today is part 4, the final installment for this month. Before we start with today's topic, specifically I want to just refresh about what your company's pricing strategy might be. Do you try to justify higher margins at your company because of your superior service? On the other hand, perhaps your strategy is to recognize that your service maybe isn't quite up to par with your competitors and you have lower than average margins, or maybe you don't have a pricing strategy at all. Whatever your strategy is or isn't, you have some tactical options to choose from. One is to be highly promotional in your pricing, to use predatory or low pricing, aggressive pricing to gain share with intentions to fix those margins later. Another game to play is to meet the competition and to basically let the competitors set your prices. Another option you have is to just rely on your sales compensation plan to get the maximum margins that your salespeople can get, or another possibility is to encourage your salespeople to sell above market, maybe without proper justification, and then let them deal with the problem when they get caught speeding by customers. And another possibility, and you may think this is somewhat academic, but I'm suggesting considering selling at market prices, not above and not below, based on the value received by the customer and not necessarily on the cost you pay for the product. So a little more on that. I want to mention, though, the strategic pricing movements in wholesale distribution. Some consultants promise a 2% increase in overall margins, or a 2% increase perhaps in a sub-category of your margins at your company. And we would argue that anyone can raise prices on at least part of their business, because there are always places that you've left money on the table, that your prices are lower than they could be or should be. But what we're focused more on is a sustainable margin increase overall, and taking into consideration what we might call damage control, which is we don't want to lose profitable business as a result of being too optimistic in our ability to raise margins. And really, we think of this strategic pricing project or challenge as being one of change management, but change management both for the sales force at the wholesale distribution as well as for the management team. So today I want to focus on the third of 3 pricing opportunities. Today I want to talk about building market-driven pricing matrices. And of course, you know what a matrix is, and that's the intersection of different pricing options for different product categories in your company. And then also take into consideration the different customer segments that you serve, perhaps having a different pricing matrix column, if you will, for different segments, or a different matrix for different segments, and also taking into consideration the size of the customer, and how much business they do with you, and also how much business, how sensitive they are based on how much they buy from you and where their emphasis is on their spend from their wallet, how sensitive they are to the prices in one type of product versus another, which product prices are more visible in the marketplace, and so on. So let's start by talking about the structure of your pricing matrices, what some people would call the architecture. The objective of your pricing program is to obtain consistency and predictability within your organization, but also the ability to have a quick response to customers who very often they want an answer, they want it quickly. They don't want to wait a long time because their customer is waiting for, their user within their organization is waiting for product. They don't want to wait indefinitely for an answer from a distributor. Pricing increases, as I mentioned earlier, they need to be sustainable. There's not much point in raising them just to slip back later. And finally, an objective is to have fewer special pricing records in your ERP system, in your pricing module. So that's a segue to talk about the pricing library in your system. in your ERP system, and most distributors, unfortunately, underutilize the many elements in their pricing system, the capabilities in their pricing system, most of which are designed in a hierarchical manner, meaning to go from very specific, meaning a price for this specific customer for this specific item, to going into a broader analysis, which is going maybe a pricing for this customer but for this group of items, or pricing for this group of customers for this item, and then you go from the narrow to the wide. That's the structure that you typically see in these systems, and we're recommending as consultants to you that you consider the segment the customer is in, the size of the customer, and the proxy for their size is how much business do they do with you, and also their sensitivity to the item in question, and there are several ways to figure that out using computer analytics and mostly studying what customers, what that customer, if they're a big customer of yours, or what customers like them typically are most sensitive to. The pricing library, another objective is it wants to be easily updated. So every time there's a price change or cost change from your vendor, or if you change your list prices, or both, many distributors use both, a combination, I would say, of basing some of their prices on replacement costs and some of them on using a list price computation, and also giving you the ability to notify your customers where you feel you need to of price changes, but only on the items they buy from you, not necessarily on every single item in your catalog. Market-driven pricing suggests, though, that not that we're taking anything away from our salespeople at our company, but rather that we're empowering them to delegate the routine pricing on a day-to-day basis on smaller customers to the system at the company and to the support staff at the company. To truly be account executives, they have to learn to delegate. And to price with style and grace, if you will, they have to be able to handle routine pricing through the system, through the support staff, because dealing with routine pricing is definitely not the highest and best use of the salespeople's time. But there are times that they have to be negotiating with customers, as distinguished from selling. And in those situations, they need market pricing in order to be effective win-win negotiators. So just to sum this up for this month, our topic's been margins. Our theory is, based on our consulting experience with hundreds of companies, that distributors typically delegate too much pricing authority to the sales team without providing the market pricing information the sellers need to make the transition from selling to negotiating. That the biggest profit improvement distributors can make is margin improvement, the sustainable kind of margin improvement, and with very little risk. However, let me also admonish you to say that this is not just a game of pricing analytics and statistics. It's about change management for the sales force and for the management team. So until next month, this is Brent Grover from Evergreen Consulting for advanced supply chain software powered by IBIS.